Welcome to Vision Chat, a podcast about spiritual topics, with your hosts, Virginia and Stina.
Hello and welcome back to Vision Chat. In this episode, Virginia and I are interviewing Dakota Wint. Dakota Wint is a documentary filmmaker, spiritual teacher, podcast host, blogger, poet, and an author. He's well known for his YouTube channel, Dakota of Earth, which focuses on spirituality, traveling, and unusual cultures. He's also executive director of the Community Garden, which is a foundation committed to creating positive changes in the world. Dakota also has created some retreats for sacred medicines and ceremonies. Welcome, Dakota.
Thanks. That was nice. I'm glad you mentioned the foundation.
Yeah, that's good. And I just have to say, I've been following you or your YouTube channel for like 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
And I find it so admirable and beautiful to see your desire to seek out knowledge and discover so many different types of cultures and places while you're traveling, and see how they live and how aligned with nature they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting, just strange way my life has unfolded. It's not like I've really put so much plan into it. It just has kind of happened. And yeah, it's been really interesting. I've got to really see some really incredible places and meet really incredible people. And yeah, I'm happy to share any stories or anything you're interested in that you like.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about, I'm open.
Yeah. Do you want to start telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I guess I'll try to do a short story. I grew up in Detroit in Michigan, which is where I'm at now, and grew up playing music with my friends. We kind of all went to a bad high school. Most of us dropped out of high school. And we were all very bad, rebellious kids. None of us really had parents growing up. I remember, we had parents, but not ones that paid attention to us, We were always out in the streets. And there was some point, by the time I was 17, we were all living in an apartment with like 10 of us, just wild kids. And it was really fun. Very neglectful, like now that I look back at it, but it was like I didn't know in the moment, and it was very good and really taught me how these skills that I needed to make it in places like India and, some of these countries that can be a little bit more challenging, or they're kind of, just so much different than where we are from. And I feel like having this sort of freedom when I was younger just kind of set me up to be able to kind of handle those experiences, not get so overwhelmed by them. So I guess like when I look back at my life, I can see how there was always this kind of spiritual thread being sewn through all the moments. And I didn't fully understand it all when it was just like in those moments. Like there was a period where I really went through an atheist phase where I really was, like learning all about evolution, really learning about physics and science. And for a long time, that was sort of my spiritual practice, was that. Because I still was getting spiritual feelings. I was still really looking at the mystery of the universe, but I didn't have the spiritual language for it. I was, it's science, it was just science. And I was always kind of intrigued by the hippie movement because of just rock and roll and just the rebellious sort of culture that came with it from the counterculture. And having grown up in the era I grown up, but we've been in a lot of, corruption has been in political stuff. So I've always been like conscious of all that kind of stuff. And the hippie movement was sort of like the last big era of like making sort of noise about corruption and stuff. And I feel like our culture is doing that too. Our generations are also, trying to really push for change like they were. And I knew about the psychedelic stuff, but I wasn't really into any of that. Like for me, that sounded crazy. I was like, oh my God, like taking some crazy drug and like, you hallucinate and stuff. I would never do that. I still to this day don't even drink. I never really drank alcohol or anything. And I didn't smoke any weed or anything until I was like 21. I was like already grown up and, kind of intelligent enough to not like, get pulled into the bad side of it. And I was dating this bartender, and she was kind of a druggie a little bit. Like she was doing cocaine and stuff and drinking a lot. And I wasn't really quite me, but we dated for a long time and just found a way to make it work. And she wanted to give me mushrooms and did give me my first mushroom experience. And it was like a very spiritual experience for me. It was like a religious experience when I look back at it. Like it changed the whole, way I was going about my life. And her and I broke up, and I was really heartbroken over it. And I was into Ram Dass, and I was into these people that were having these experiences with psychedelics and sort of interpreting them from a spiritual way, because that's what I was having. So I was kind of being attracted to those people because I was in my process, and no one I knew could talk. You couldn't talk to anybody about that. Oh, I had mushrooms and had this experience. Any of my friends would just be like, yeah, you were on mushrooms. You were just on some drug, and maybe you felt happy in that moment and you're just overthinking it. But it was something different, like it was a different state of consciousness. And like, I really saw like just, I don't know, like I looked at the soil and the tree, and I could see this unity that I didn't see before. I looked at the grass and I could see every little detail and shade of the grass. And it was like the first time I had ever opened my eyes. And it was like I just could see something so mysterious and divine inside of everything. Everywhere I looked, I saw it. And it was like so much more than just being high or like just some silly like little experience. So that set me on this journey of like, what was that experience I had? I meet Ram Dass online. Like I say, watch Ram Dass videos and stuff. And yeah, I get heartbroken, and I start working for this music festival called Warped Tour. And there's a big music festival in the US. Went out to all the big cities, and I worked for it for like 4 or 5 years. So every summer I would spend 3 months hopping city to city, selling t-shirts, working for this festival. And on this festival, there were these monks that would follow the festival, and the festival was cool with it. They would just allow them. And these monks would follow the festival and sell these books, the Bhagavad Gita, something called like the Science of Spiritual Awakening, and just like a little packet of books, whatever you wanted to give them, a donation, $2, $5, whatever. And I just saw them around all the time. And I was going through my experience of kind of waking up spiritually or like seeing the world differently. And these guys, like, I don't know, I thought they have the answers. These guys are like monks, they know. So I started befriending these monks, and I was like, I had this experience with mushrooms. Have you ever heard anything about this? And this guy, Prahlad, gave me this book called the Bhagavad Gita, and he said, just read this and, just read this and let me know what you think. And I read the book, and it was so crazy because this book had seemed to experience all the different levels of consciousness and realizations that I was going through from that experience. But they were writing about it in this book that's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years old. I don't even know. It's thousands of years old. And I was like, how the people in India are on mushrooms or what? How did they know this? Because I see, okay, this guy is like always surrounded by cows, mushrooms, cows. I don't know. I was like just going crazy trying to like, you ever seen that meme of Charlie from It's Always Funny in Philadelphia with all like the posters on the wall and like the lines trying to get, so I felt like just going crazy, like a schizophrenic or something, and I was heartbroken, having the spiritual awakening. All these things were like boiling, and it was just like a transitional period in my life from every aspect. I was like now in my 20s, I'm traveling, I'm starting to kind of make a little bit of money from this festival I'm working on. I'm heartbroken, I'm having a spiritual awakening, I'm befriending monks. And then I'm just like, I made a decision to just like, I'm going to go to India and just like see if I can find more of that experience. I go to India, and I somehow get connected with the Ram Dass Foundation. I'm sure maybe you know who Ram Dass is. And he's like a spiritual teacher. And he's someone that I look to a lot because he also kind of went through a similar process. And so I got somehow in contact with this foundation just by like grace or chance or something. And they happened to be in India the same time I was in India. Not Ram Dass, but the rest of the foundation. Like this guy Krishna Das, who I didn't really know at the time, but Krishna Das is like a super famous singer. He sings these Indian mantras, music, and like in yoga studios everywhere. Like when I walk around, sometimes I just hear people listening to it. And I was in India with this guy, having no idea who he was, and he turns out to become like a huge, meaningful character in my life. And these guys take me to meet this sadhu in the jungle, and that's my first kind of experience meeting like a guy that's like a holy man. Like he's, his whole life is kind of revolving around God. He doesn't wear clothes, he doesn't cut his hair, he probably doesn't even really bathe or anything, and he just kind of sits there and chants all day, and he just lives in the jungle. So I'm just like mind blown with these guys sitting in the jungle, and I come home and like just going through many things. And actually from that trip, I didn't actually stop in India. I went to the Middle East, I went to Jordan, I went to Egypt, I went to one more place, Amsterdam, and Palestine. I went to Palestine. So there was so many little aspects of this trip that was like just crazy. Like I was seeing all the crazy ancient archaeology in Jordan. I got to see like the crazy conflict in Israel and Palestine, and I got sucked into that for a week, and it was like super scary and changed my whole life too. And watching bodies burn in Varanasi in India, and all this happened in like a month and a half. All this stuff just squished into like a really short time, maybe 2 months, but still like this is my first time leaving the country, and it's just like a lot for me to go through. And I kept going back to India, and I kept traveling and exploring. I find out that like tribes are actually been using these kind of substances forever, like in the jungle in the Amazon and in the mountains in Mexico. And they are doing it with this intention. Like they're doing it to invoke that spiritual thing. Like it's not like the way that we do it, where you just take it at a party, or it's just something that's kind of fun, or maybe you associate it with like artists or, people that OD, or I don't know. It's not the way that we interpret it here. Our culture has no idea that like for thousands of years, humans have been using these things for spiritual practices. So I start going to those places. I go to the Amazon jungle. I try ayahuasca. I try like just frog poison. And I just start like seeing just, I don't know, just what is this earth about? What happens when I do all this stuff, like these people that are maintaining these ancient traditions. Because like I didn't even know. You growing up in Detroit, growing up in Chicago or Norway, like we're not taught that like any of this stuff. We don't know. We're just like, I don't know, watching Disney movies and stuff as kids. We don't think of anything. And like while we're doing that, there's people in the jungle that are like capturing frogs and rubbing the poison in their wounds and all this weird stuff. That seems like stuff that humans were doing back in the caveman days or something, but it's happening now. And when you like see and engage with that world, you're like, wow, this is actually like a science. It sounds super primitive and super kind of like dumb when you come from like, I'm a doctor and I went to Harvard for this many years, but like there's like hidden the nature has so much stuff. It's the science of understanding nature, and these tribes and these people that live in the jungle and that live in that way have their own science. We sort of left the jungles, we left the trees and the forests and the mountains, and we built cities and stuff. And we discovered these medicines and these awakenings through different ways. There's probably lots of ways to discover it, but these tribal people are doing it in a way of working with their environment and figuring this stuff out and learning how to communicate with the plants and learning how to communicate with the animals, and just like seeing this from being a kid in Detroit. It's just been like a big crazy journey for me, and I still like don't fully have a hold of it still. Like sometimes it's still just crazy. And yeah, long story short is that kind of. And the mushroom sent me on this big adventure, and I'm still on it. And I'm discovering now, I didn't think like, okay, so when I first went to India, the Ram Dass story is Ram Dass went to India, gave this sadhu, this guru LSD, and nothing really happened to him. He felt it, but he was able to kind of like, he was like, yeah, I do this with meditation. So that was like, I wanted to see that. And I went to India for like 5 years, looking everywhere, meeting guys that put their arms up and never put their arms down, meeting people that live in caves. And like after 5 years, I was like, yeah, there's some crazy stuff out there, but I don't think any of these guys are reaching the level of the plants or reaching the level of the mushroom. And I gave up kind of on the idea that like you can get there naturally, which is okay. Like, it's okay that we have to use nature. Even our breath is a relationship with the plants, that's an exchange. So like I started looking at it that way. I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's not like a bad thing to have to utilize tools of nature. And my last experience in India, we gave some of these guys these medicines to see what would happen. And we gave it to 3 people, 3 of these yogis, and all 3 of them said that they have been there. And by the way that they reacted, I believe it. So now I'm on like this whole new understanding of like, okay, maybe I was wrong. And you can actually get there if it's just really hard. So yeah, that's now here. I'm sitting here.
Would you say that would you call yourself a spiritual person after all these experiences? Like, would you say like I don't know. Yeah, spiritual.
A spiritual person. Yeah, definitely. I think, but I feel like because of some of these experiences I've had with particularly like the psychedelics and stuff, it just has changed the way that I like see the world. I see the world as like the substance of the world is spirit. Or I mean, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it atoms, or you can call it any kind of language you want to filter it for. I mean, like science saying space is made, or like materials, everything in this universe is 99.9% empty space. It's atoms. Okay, that's just another way to say it's a spirit, or it doesn't make it any less crazy to say it's an atom or a spirit. But like or consciousness, the substance of this reality is like consciousness. It's like not something that's physical, and it's like beyond time. It's just like this isness. You can't talk about it because it's not a thing. And so I think like I'm now kind of, not always, but like in my more aware moments, I feel like I see this, and I see it in people when I'm in my more aware states. Like I look at someone and I can see like they're also in that mystery. I'm that spirit, the substance, consciousness, whatever it makes up everything. So like I'm a part of that. These people are a part of that. And I feel like all of us are spiritual people in the sense that like, even if we're not recognizing it, we're all still in this mystery. And all spirituality is waking up to the mystery of the weirdness of life. It's just that spirituality is only like, okay, and in the same way if someone makes you mad, your reaction is to be pissed off. When you acknowledge the mystery of reality, the reaction is a spiritual feeling. That's just what spiritual is. It's just the reaction of understanding that we are a part of something that's so unexplainable. And we can't talk about it. So we create societies, we create our egos. I'm this person, I do this, I have to go to work. Because if we stopped and actually looked around, I feel like I don't even know what the world would look like if we actually paid attention to what was really happening. We have to create this kind of fake little society world, a little human world, which is okay. It's just animal behavior that we're playing out. But like there's something weird about the human, is that like not only are we the animal, but we are capable of like looking out and like transcending the impulses of the animal. That's what yoga is. Yoga is about learning the mastery over the body, learning mastery over the mind. And it's about realizing that you're not actually these things that you think you are. You think you're your body because the impulses of the senses and the hunger and the lust and all these things you go through, all the emotions you jump through from moment to moment. I mean, when you're angry, you're full angry. When you're horny, you're full horny. When you're hungry, you're full horny. And you give your authority to all these different emotions. And in that moment, that's the truth. But like in yoga, they say like, that's just a hypnosis. You're just being hypnotized by the body, and you're giving the power away to it. So there's this science that's yoga, and it's about learning to get mastery over that. So long story short, yeah, I guess I'm a spiritual person now that I'm ranting, but I think all people are spiritual. I think it's just like it's just a realization. So I think like you're a spiritual person. The crackhead in the street is a spiritual person. The scammer is a spiritual person. It's just because it's made. That's what the spiritual is, just the substance of this reality. and we're all swimming in it. But yeah, I know kind of what you're asking, and I feel like a spiritual person. I didn't mean to philosophize so much. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's so interesting to hear
Yeah.
you. Do you feel like the reincarnation that people have or human has is kind of opening up more and more how spiritual they are, or more how they perceive the world?
You mean like, do I think there's a spiritual thing happening now within the world?
Or that we need to have certain reincarnation in bodies to kind of open up for the spiritual more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, do I think like, does your previous births determine your spiritual understanding in this life?
Yeah.
I think so. I think there is a level to that because like I think like people that are deeply spiritual people, you come in with it. Like you might not fully know the language and you still might get pulled into the bullshit of life and still do things that are quote unspiritual, but like I think like in your quiet moments when you're not influenced by the, shit of the world, you kind of know. And that knowing is just like an intuitive kind of knowing of it's not, I don't know really what it even is. It's just like I know I'm a part of something bigger. And I think that comes from previous births. Yeah, I think like, I mean, that's like what science says. If you go to physics, they say like energy, it can never be destroyed. It just changes form. And if you look at this reality, we can see that like when something decomposes, it just becomes something different. So I think like as above, so below. I believe that also. I believe like if you examine reality, you find this fractalized pattern and you can see like patterns in general in reality. And that implies as above, so below, that like no matter where you look, like you see atoms spinning and then you zoom out, you see planets spinning. And I think souls or this spiritual quality that goes through body to body is also works within that function. I think, yeah, I think there is a spiritual reincarnation thing, a cycle that it goes transcends the body. And I think, yeah, I think it's like a data collector. I don't fully understand what this machine is that we're in, but it seems like it collects knowledge. It's trying to collect knowledge of whatever the imagination is. It's like the imagination is like this cave or like this mountain, and like we're little bots being sent out to mine it to just see like what all the infinite potential that is just in there. What kind of runes or artifacts or minerals or mines or weird animals or anything we can find in this imagination. Because it seems really that's what we are. We're just like we're like imagination inhabiting creatures, like just some ghosts inhabiting this thing temporarily, but we're just gathering experience. And I'm sure that keeps happening. I'd be very surprised and shocked if it only happened one time. It seems more, I mean, if you look at the universe, things happen in patterns. So for me, it seems like it's more likely that something happens again after death, giving something's happening now. You know what I mean? Like we know something can happen. We're here. So it probably happens again. I'd be very like, it'd be crazy. Could you imagine if it only happens once? And that's such a blessing. But I mean, either way, I guess it's a blessing. It's still crazy. But yeah, I think it matters. I think we are collecting in experience, and that is being passed somehow. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand it or can get a grasp of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about how you became spiritual, but how did you get into the spirituality? Like, is there a day or a certain type of episode that you remember from your past, which is like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
now I'm in
So
it.
there's one really big moment. Well, there's a couple big moments. I remember being like a really little kid, and I remember already like thinking deeply about things, and I remember touching the wall and like being like, am I touching the wall or is the wall touching me? Like just like a stupid, I don't know why. And I would like get so brain fucked by this as like a little boy and just be in my room and just like think about this question. And now that I look back at it, I'm like realizing that I was like inquiring into like just experience in general and almost like leading myself towards the kind of understanding of oneness that I have. Like it's both. There is an experience of me touching the wall and the wall touching me, and we're synced in this experience. That there is an illusion of separateness, but really it's just one thing happening. the wall and me are one thing in that moment, and actually we're one thing always. It's just connected by the floor or connected by the earth or whatever. But we get lost in this illusion of identity that separates us. So when I look back, I'm like, oh, that's interesting that I was already kind of spiritual philosophizing as a kid, and I didn't think anything of it. Years go by, I go through my atheist phase, I go through a very depressive phase, very like suicidal, but like just kind of emotionally suicidal, like cry for attention suicidal, not like actually going to do it. And like really like deep in that and like wanting to die, but like just wanting someone, I don't know, just wanting like attention, I guess, just wanting to understand love or like feel, like I probably comes from the neglect of my parents. And I remember like I lived with my grandma growing up, and I remember sitting in her room and I was like going through this very sad period, like crying, and the TV was off. And I remember looking at myself in the reflection of the TV, and I just had like a flash of realization because I was crying the fact that like I just felt like nothing mattered. And I saw my reflection crying, and it like hit me all of a sudden that like it's okay that nothing matters. And because nothing matters, that I can apply meaning to this life. Okay, sure. If I want to accept nothing matters, say I accept that, then that means like what? I'm just gonna be sad all the time. If nothing matters, then I can do anything. I can like then like it sounds kind of silly, but like in that moment, it was like a liberating feeling for me. I was like, wow, I don't actually have to be sad, even if it is meaningless. Like I can just make the best of it. Okay, who cares if I die and nothing actually matters? I might as well like have fun. And from that moment, that was like a very awakening moment for me, and that I began to like have dreams and aspirations and goals and start to work on relationships with people, hang out with friends. And yeah, I think like these couple moments were big things to me. And one thing I remember looking at myself in that mirror, someone brought up, I told this story once, and maybe on YouTube or something. In a comment, someone said, it sounds like scrying. Like when those guys used to look in like the black rocks and have like they'd get some message or something from this black stone or some water or some different surface. I was like, that's weird. Maybe like, I'm just like unconsciously tapping into these things, and maybe these things are just real. And, some moments they just happen to sync up, and it blesses you with something. So I think like unconsciously, I think I've been kind of having moments that allowed me to tap into it. And then the mushrooms, and then India. And it's just been like one situation after another, just kind of stumbling from one moment to the next. And they're all connected when I look back on it. I couldn't never elaborate on it because it's just, my so many moments of my elaborate life. But in my head, I can see all the steps.
What inspired you to start like your YouTube channel and documenting your
It was a
experience?
breakup. I was just like, I'm not fully sure what actually inspired. I was making videos already. I had a YouTube channel already, but it was like not travel videos. It was kind of like just stuff I threw up. I don't know. It was very unorganized and random poetry videos or videos of me and my friends dancing and stupid kind of stuff. And I don't know. I'm not sure what inspired me. I was just like, I'm going to go to India and I'm just going to film it. And then, yeah, I just did it. And that kind of became like also in a way a weird diary, kind of like it was a way for me to like kind of get my feelings out. And it was interesting because people would watch and leave comments, so it kind of gave me this extra layer or incentive to share it, because then I was like now connecting with people that were sharing cool ideas with me or sharing things that I could resonate with. And I just kept going and kind of chasing that. And yeah, I'm not really sure what the big thing was that inspired the YouTube, but I guess India probably, that's inspired the travel and the new direction of the talking about spiritual stuff. It was India.
I mean, it's interesting that you said it was like kind of like a diary, because that was my sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you're documenting your experiences, but it also to me feels like you're searching for something.
Yeah.
Have you found it, or are you still
I
looking?
think I'm just searching. I don't think I'm looking for anything. I think I'm just like just looking. I'm just going to see. I don't know. It's like just walking into a forest. It's like I don't really know what's in there, but you just going for the walk, just like
You
following my feet.
you have a ton of people following you. what do you think draws so many people to you?
Well, it's been up and down. It's been a long journey. Like before I even went to India, I probably had 100,000 subscribers on YouTube already. But that knew me for different things. That knew me from poetry. That knew me kind of for like my friends that also were YouTubers, and we were making like silly skits and stuff. So I kind of had like people that knew who I was, but for a different reason. And when I changed my sort of the way I was expressing myself on YouTube, I kind of lost all that and I had to build it back up. And so it's been a journey, the follower thing.
Because your journey sounds like, so you're documenting this, you're putting these YouTube, like the videos out on YouTube, right? But it feels personal. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like you're doing it to show people anything. It just feels like it's your personal journey. So
Yeah.
why do you think people are so drawn to you into watching these videos?
Well, definitely because like it's interesting to just like hear people talk about psychedelic experiences and stuff. I think like a lot of people come know me from that, like just talking about, oh, I saw this crazy thing during this vision or something. And I think I really started doing that at a time where it was still kind of very unusual. I think it's a little bit more mainstream now. Everyone knows what ayahuasca is, and everyone knows like you can get a spiritual experience from these kind of things. It's kind of broke its way through. But when I started talking about it like 7 years ago or something on YouTube, it was very weird, like to hear someone talk about that kind of stuff. So I think like a lot of people were interested. It was just like a kind of perfect storm. Like ayahuasca and stuff was getting popular and mushrooms were getting popular. And I just happened to be one of the kind of people that decided to talk about it publicly. So I think that kind of got a lot of people paying attention. I think like going and doing some of these crazy adventures, it's just interesting to see. I think because I grew up writing poetry, sometimes I can say things interesting. And I think like I was like a really weird kid growing up. I would read books like how to talk to people or like how to, I don't know, like charisma books and stuff. And like I was a really nervous kid and I did like magic tricks and I wanted to perform magic tricks as a kid and do these mind reading tricks. And so like I would practice a lot talking and expressing myself. And so I feel like all of that kind of played into the way that I could act on camera because I was like just a weird kind of, I don't know, like introverted kid. And I feel like I had to practice to talk to people. So I think that helped me actually. And I guess people, yeah, I think like I just crazy adventures, being high. People just like to see people be weird.
I remember like the community too with Clara and Steffi Lee
Yeah,
and video. What is it
cool
called? Yeah, I remember that. And it was so interesting, like following different side of the story, I guess, or
like you from the different channels, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah, I know. I want to do that again. Like my idea is to kind of get a group together and we travel together, and then you have everyone's the way that because everyone's story tells different. So it's like it would just be cool. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I miss those days, and I would love to do something like that again.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I love those videos. And
It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, see you guys as different adventures.
Yeah. That was a crazy time. Steffi got really sick. She had to leave early because she has cystic fibrosis. So the pollution in India like was very, very, very bad on her. She had to spend like 3 months in the hospital when she got home.
Oh, wow.
Clara left because India was just insane on her, I think. She left in the middle. And then at the end, it was just me and Tom. We were the only ones that survived.
Yeah.
Yep. Going to the rat temple and stuff. I don't even think Clara made it to the rat temple. I don't know if you remember the rat temple, but
I don't think so. But I have to rewatch it.
yeah, there was some crazy temple that they just let rats live there. There's just thousands of rats and they feed them. And yeah, we went to this crazy temple. But Clara dropped out right before then, which I understand. But
yeah.
Which is actually crazy. If I don't remember if you remember the first video, but Clara saved a dead rat.
Yeah, I think so.
Carrying around this dead rat, like some New Delhi dead rat, like crying that it was dying. Oh my God, like, yeah, it's sad that it's dying, but like, this is a New Delhi rat. Please don't carry it around in our hotel room. And she was like carrying it in the room, crying, and so mad that we were like mad that she brought this diseased rat into the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we ended in the rat temple. So it was all very symbolic and beautiful.
Oh, wow. Full circle.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that draws you to sacred like places or spots?
Certain ones, yeah, definitely. Like like there's one place, there's a mountain in India with where this sadhu lived his whole life, Ramana Maharshi. It's a very sacred place to me and to people that appreciate him. I went to the place where Jesus was said to be crucified. Yeah, that's just interesting from a historical reason. I've tried like feeling, like trying to feel a place, you know what I mean? Like that's when I watch other people go to places, sometimes you're like, wow, it must feel so crazy to be there. But then I've been to some of these places and it actually doesn't feel any different. You just, I mean, yeah, maybe sometimes it feels different, like, but it's not sustainable. And I feel like if we knew what happened, every little square inch of where we were, every land would be sacred to us. Like if you knew what had to happen to for you to sit where you're sitting, we would be like, holy shit, this is so much sacred than this random, spot where Jesus. I mean, yeah, it's sacred also, but to think of all the stuff that happened had to happen everywhere. It's all very sacred. Have you guys ever traveled before, like left anywhere and done like a kind of pilgrimage?
I took a year off and just traveled I started in Costa Rica and then worked my way through Australia. So I
Well,
went to,
wow.
sorry?
You went to from started in Costa Rica and ended in Australia?
Yeah, so I went through like South America, over to Africa, Asia, and yeah, Australia.
And by the end, did you feel like what I'm talking about? Like in the beginning, and maybe I don't know if I'm just like getting cynical but like I feel like in the beginning everything was so mind blowing. Like when the adventure starts, it's so mind blowing. But then at the end, it's kind of I don't know. It feels like it just becomes what you're doing. Like the adventure is just what you're doing, and it kind of for me like coming home is so nice for me. Like my whole life has kind of been an adventure for these past few years that like coming home is such a breath of fresh air where like I feel like most people are trying to leave their home. And I don't know,
Yeah.
did you feel that by the end? Were you like ready to come home and just like be in your bed and like see your family or your friends?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I left, I was so ready to leave and kind of get a new perspective of life and kind of escape the life that I had in a sense. But on the journey, I definitely felt like I miss like a home base. I
Yeah.
miss like staying at one place, being comfortable and just like can breathe. Because
Yeah.
I feel it's so many different kind of experiences that you get when you're traveling, and that can be overwhelming if you don't sit down, digest it,
Exactly.
feel it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. Like I feel like my life for a few years has been one crazy moment after another that I haven't had like time to just sit and like integrate. It's
Yeah.
just like I get like a month, which is like Christmas and New Year's, and like I've got 2 months. I spent this February or January with my mom, and like I got a little bit of a breather time, and now I'm leaving in a couple days again, and it's just like it just doesn't stop, and it's like fuck. Like, I
Yeah.
really feel a big not pressure, but like a big feeling inside to kind of settle and integrate and kind of calm down a little bit and just like reorganize. But then at the same time, I have like a devil also. It's like, nah, don't stop, keep going.
Yeah.
Big battle.
Yeah, sounds like it. But do
Yeah.
you think you will be ready one day to be like, okay, I'm going to live here and
I feel like
going
it's
to,
always going to be a battle. I feel
yeah,
like I want both. Like I really want to like just settle down, have a family, have like a little house, and like just kind of I don't know, like have fun, make food in my kitchen. And then also I'm like I just would kind of right now I'd rather just be sitting in the middle of the jungle, well,
yeah,
just like with nobody, with some like crazy shaman lady.
yeah.
That's the battle.
Yeah. Do you want to tell a little bit about um, when you did plant medicine for the first time or different type of plant medicine and how they work?
Sure. Um, so the different shamanic plants that I've had experiences with, mushrooms first, which to me I feel like are the most powerful, the most ancient being on this planet. So when you take the mushroom, it's like you're communing with like this ancient life form that's been on the planet for millions and millions of years. It has all the knowledge and evolution that's running through that little thing. So you eat that thing and you get blasted with all this cosmic knowledge. The other plants have it too. Um, Ayahuasca is nice. I don't like the puking so much. It goes away after a while. After you drink it a lot, you kind of don't puke all the time. But ayahuasca is very intense because of that. Like it's very hard on the body for me. I feel like I have like some like acid reflux. So like drinking the ayahuasca really like hurts my insides. They would probably tell me just to drink more and it would cure me. But peyote, I've had peyote, which is also very interesting. It's very hard to eat because you're just eating a cactus. So like you really have to eat a lot of it to feel it. But it's kind of like natural LSD. It's kind of like that kind of feeling, very electric feeling. Wachuma is called San Pedro in English. Um, Very loving, very heart opening spiritual plants. You don't really have visions. You just kind of feel very spiritual and very connected. Um, I've done random tobacco things, like they blow tobacco up your nose, and um, I've tried acid before. I don't really go too crazy with like the crazy chemicals. I've done frog venom, toad venom, some crazy stuff, a little bit. And they all have their own flavor, but basically, the conclusion I'm getting is like if you're seeking an experience, it's interesting, you kind of get a little experience from each of these, but like the conclusion is that, hey, you're a part of this mystery. It's temporary. You're eternal and it's all beautiful. Don't worry. That's kind of the feeling you get, like you have ayahuasca and you get blasted to the center of the universe and you're like, oh my God, I'm actually eternal. It's all okay. Same with mushrooms, same with spirituality. Like everything's pointing to the same kind of thing. Like it's all good. It's all eternal. This is just a little fun drama you're in. Have fun, get lost in it, but remember. And the plants are just there to kind of show you a little remember. So I feel like all the plants and spiritual practices are pointing you towards that. And now I feel like I'm in the part of my awakening process where I want to do it through dedication. The plants are good and they really show you. But one of these yogis, so we gave 5-MeO DMT, which comes from a toad, very powerful, super, super direct to the spirit. We gave it to one of these sadhus, and he told me, this is nice. Like for someone like a normal person that might not live in the spiritual world or get to kind of experience these things or have the time to dedicate years to yoga to have this experience, this is nice. And it shows them that there is a spiritual side to life. But you see it for 5 minutes, you get some flash of light, and then it's gone, and you have that spiritual power that you saw is gone, and you're back to your same habits, and you're back to your different stuff, your life, the drama of your life. But he told me, he's like, the difference between me and that is that like my inner state doesn't change. Like I'm constantly in the ceremony does not end when the experience goes away. I am in it forever. Like he said, the sapo, we call it sapo because that's toad in Spanish. He said, the sapo is 1 5-minute light, but my light is forever. And I was like, oh my God. Like I thought I was going to blow this guy's mind. I was like, we're going to show this guy what we're doing, blow his mind with this. And he was just like, he shrugged it off. He was like, yeah, it's cool. It's powerful. And for some people, this will be helpful, but like, I'm taking the long journey. Like this little shortcut is not, you're not going to blow my mind with this, I'm in it for the long run. So that really inspired me. And I want to see like what happens if I just dedicate myself. And it's not to say that like these experiences are easy. They're very hard to go through a very spiritual awakening through a mushroom or ayahuasca experience. But you can't depend. They're just pointing you towards something. You have to walk the walk. Like you can't depend on, like that's my practice is to take the mushroom all the time. And that's your thing. I take the mushroom once a month or once a year or whatever. But like I think that's misunderstanding the message of the mushroom or misunderstanding the message of the ayahuasca or of the yoga. It's like we're showing you something. The mushroom is like showing you something. And it's like saying now you have to find your path to maintain it. Here's the truth is that you are a spiritual being. You're having a temporary experience. All this hallucinations and drama that you're lost in right now, it's not actually real. And that what you're a part of is you get to see it for a moment. You get to see like, oh my God, like I'm just this infinite light and all my problems dissolve into that. And for a brief moment, whether it's through yoga or through these plants, you see that. And now it's up for you to maintain that realization and find the practice that works for you to maintain that realization. And I think a lot of people, including myself, we're from America, we're from the West, we want to like consume fast, give me this experience, you know. And I'm lost in that because that's just how we're raised, you know. It's bred into the fabric of our personalities. But I think like yeah, I'm curious to see like discipline, dedication, the long journey of like really controlling myself. Like not like, yeah, okay, I can have that experience if I take this thing and then I can go back to doing whatever I'm doing. But like what happens if I like stop all my bad habits and I just focus on that spiritual thing and I don't give anything else attention and I just discipline myself without any drugs, without any plants? What happens? I don't know. I've never done it. But like these other guys that are doing it are saying the same thing happens. And if I can do that by myself without having to depend on a plant, like if I could just sit down and I'm just like, whoa, you know, connected with God, like that's the real practice. That's the real superpower, I think.
If
Yes,
I
great.
say meditation to you, what do you think of?
When you say meditation, I think of a couple of things. I think of contemplation, meaning like deep thought. I think there's meditation as a practice and meditation as a state. So there's meditation as a practice where you're breathing or you're chanting or you're exploring your thought. And then there's meditation as a state, which is where that practice takes you if you're successful in it. And that is a state that is beyond thought. Just a stillness where nothing is happening. It's just like, it's the isness of reality where it's not like, right now I'm talking, I'm thinking of what I'm going to say. All the different things, you know, what I'm going to do after. I'm hypnotized by all the things. But the meditative state is the absence of all of that. You're not feeling anything. It's just this pureness, this still, just the thing that's happening when all the mind stuff is clean, you know, when the mirror is clean and it's just pure self. That's what I think of.
Have you ever experienced that for yourself?
Couple times. I think definitely on psychedelics, I can get there for sure. I can get there, and I know I have the practice that I know if I have taken a good enough dose, I know I can get there, and I know how to do it. By myself, it's happened a couple times, but like one time I remember it happened. I was on a train in India coming back from Varanasi on this train to Delhi, long train ride, and it's early morning after having slept on this train, all loud, and there's million Indian people on the train. It's shaking and stuff, and you're like exhausted, but you sleep through it, and then you wake up early. It's like 4 or 5 a.m. And I remember I was sitting there in this seat, just kind of watching the world go by. And I was like, I'm just gonna try to meditate. You know, I'm in India. I never sit down and just actually give it a full go. What happens? And I just did it. And I'm breathing and I'm focusing and I'm really giving it my full effort. And then all of a sudden, it's just everything goes. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not thinking right now. Everything's gone. And then I caught myself realizing that in my head, I'm saying, oh my God, I'm not thinking. And I got like caught in this, like I was just like, oh my God, I'm thinking about not thinking. It's just like the trap of the mind. So like for a second, I had it. For like one little second, I had it. And then like my brain was like, you did it. You're not thinking. And then like another thought got me. But yeah, for like a couple times it's happened.
What if we told you you could sustain this for
I
longer
believe
than a
you.
second?
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's possible.
it is. And what if we told you that you could get to those places without using substances?
I would believe you. If you said it a year ago, I would probably argue a little bit, but I think like, yeah, I think it's real.
Yeah.
I think it's very hard. And I think like the average person on the street, if they're saying like, oh yeah, I get to the DMT state naturally, I'm like, I don't know. But maybe, yeah, I think. Why do you get there?
Yeah. Stina and I both
Yeah.
we took meditation classes.
Yeah.
They're psychic classes.
Yeah.
So you learn to open up your abilities, you learn how to, and everybody has these abilities. It's just like, are you open to them?
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you're saying is like awakening.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, we both, that's how we met. So we met through like taking these meditation classes, and we learned all about like, like a lot of times I think people, the reason I asked you like, what do you think of as if I say meditation, is because a lot of times if you say meditation to someone, they'll be like, no, I don't want to do that because, I can't quiet my mind. It's impossible. Like I just can't do it. I have too many thoughts, and I can't get my mind to go blank. And the thing is, it's not so much about like getting your mind to go completely blank, because I think it's kind of impossible really to do that. You might have like you said, like a
Yeah.
second of it. But it really is about not letting the noise, how you were saying the noise suddenly like was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. It's like you learn the noise is always going to be there,
Yeah.
but it's more like where you direct your focus to.
Right.
And it's about finding that center space in yourself, that space that's actually neutral. And neutral meaning you're just not going to have one, we have so many feelings and so many emotions, but that we get to a place where we're actually at peace. The world could be on fire, but you're at peace when you're meditating in that space.
Do you think meditation can be anything?
What do you mean?
Like, do you think an art can be meditation, or maybe like a podcast, like talking to somebody could be a meditation, or
For sure.
doing the dishes?
Yeah, because you get into that like meditative, like hypnotic state where you're not
Yeah.
thinking, you're just on autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I personally have never taken psychedelics, and I don't know what it's like to be
Yeah.
in those realms, those
I can
dimensions.
tell you it's very crazy.
But you know what? Right. So I believe I kind of have experienced something similar in Stina as well, because we both done these classes where it's like we can get into these meditative states and be in our, like, it's almost like being out of body,
Yeah.
but controlled. So we're not flying all over the place. You
Mhm.
learn to be out of body, and you can go to these different places. And it's like taking a field trip. It's like taking spiritual field trips. And it's really amazing. We're not trying to sell you anything, by the way, but if you're interested, we can teach, we
Yeah.
teach. So we started, our school where we're teaching meditation to people. So basically we're just teaching people how to ground first, like how to ground safely to earth, be connected with earth, because we're humans, right? Like we have bodies, we're connected to earth, but a lot of times we're out of body because we're stressed,
Yeah.
or we've got some kind of trauma going on or crisis or something. So we're, out of body.
Yeah.
So we teach
Totally.
people how to ground, how to feel safe in their bodies. And then we go into the meditative stuff. Like, okay, now we're going to go into these other places. But,
Yeah.
it's possible. Like if you go out there and you're looking
I believe
for
it.
like, you
I
can
would be
get there.
curious also, though, for you to try psychedelics and just see.
Okay, I'll make you a deal. I'll try psychedelics. You try a mediumship class.
Okay, yeah, sure, totally. I mean, I the thing is like, I'm just going about to be like in the mountains and stuff. So sometimes my Wi-Fi. What do I need to do? Is it already recorded and stuff? I can download it, or
We'll sit with you and like we're doing right now,
yeah,
and we'll walk you through the steps.
yeah. It's
If you're
possible,
not
but
convinced after the first class, then
yeah,
that's it. You got nothing to lose.
yeah, I'll try for class for sure. But it's only that in 5 days I leave to go to Philippines, so we'd have to like just figure out a good day.
We're around.
Yeah.
We're not going
Okay, yeah,
anywhere.
perfect.
And
I'll
remember,
do it. I promise I'll try it.
and the thing is, yeah, so like if you can try it and then you can say like, oh my God, this is great. Or you'll say, oh my God, this is bullshit. Like either way,
Yeah.
at
No,
least
if the universe
you,
is throwing it towards me, I'll try it for sure.
why not?
Yeah. But I'd be very curious, like as someone that's like taking this serious, like you are, to just see
Yeah,
what happens if you like went a shamanic route and seen like, okay, what happens if I eat if I add little mushrooms to this practice?
good.
Yeah, and just a little bit. You don't have to like blast yourself off.
And the thing is though, like, it's like kind of like you were saying, like you've never drank. Well, I mean, like I used to drink. And I love that feeling because it brought a lot of instant calm and peace. We were saying like in the US, we're very like, okay, give me the most immediate satisfaction. We don't really have the patience to be working towards something and waiting for it.
Yeah.
So like, as soon as I kid you not, as soon as I started this practice and like weeks went into it, I couldn't drink anymore. It was an unintended consequence of
It's
like,
not on the same alignment anymore.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I tried because I love my wine, you know,
Yeah.
like I looked forward to having my glass of wine or whatever, you know. But like when I started getting into this practice and I started connecting, I think more, my system couldn't handle it. Like I just felt horrible. So I don't drink anymore. But you know, it's different for everybody. I'm not saying everybody's gonna have that same experience, you know, but
Yeah.
who knows
Well, I
what
feel like
you'll
I'm almost
experience.
coming to the same thing with like the psychedelic, which I respect super deeply, and I know it's like a powerful portal for people. But I feel like also like I tried that. I know it works, but like what is inside of me? And I'm curious. So yeah, I'll totally
Yeah,
see what you guys can throw at me.
cool.
What do you call it? Do you have a name for it?
Well, our school is Vision of Profound Healing. And our classes, like our first class is like an intro to meditation. And then we have different levels. Like we build on what you learn
Yeah.
through each class.
That's interesting. And then you start going into more like mediumship stuff after? Like you give people a foundation and then start teaching them more astral stuff?
You can go into, I mean, those are like higher level for us.
Yeah.
We go real basic. We just, because, you know, the thing is like, have you ever tried just closing your eyes and just trying to meditate? Like it takes a lot out of you at first.
Yeah.
So what we want is to take our time getting you comfortable just breathing.
Yeah.
And sitting and then build on that.
Right.
And so it's like Stina and I have been taking these classes for years, you know, ourselves. And then we started we started teaching people. But it's like a practice that to get a real benefit from, it's something that, you know, you have to be committed to and invested in.
Right.
And like, you know, we showed up week after week to do these things.
Yeah, for sure. It has to be a lifestyle for it to get the
Exactly.
results. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like going to the gym or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But do you feel like you believe in psychic people or clairvoyance and mediums and stuff like that?
Some of it. I think there's definitely more liars than there is people telling the truth.
For sure.
But I think, yeah, definitely. I feel like I hate to like keep bringing like, oh, psychedelic, but like I've had these experiences under the influence of these things where I've been able to, I'll give you two examples. One example is I had this ayahuasca vision of my ex-girlfriend pregnant, and me saying sorry to her for like the way the relationship ended, and like just saying like, you know, just probably some trauma of trying to heal myself inside my head, you know, like just like saying sorry to her for being a dickhead and whatever. And then I saw her with a baby and a new family and living happy, and I was like, that's what I want for her. You know, I want to apologize for her and have this beautiful life for her. And we weren't even talking or anything, and I don't even think I told her for a long time. Maybe like 1 month, 2 months, 3, 4 months later, I happened to talk to her, and I said like, hey, something weird happened. I had this vision of you that you were pregnant in ayahuasca. And she told me, she's like, this is gonna sound crazy, but I actually am pregnant right now. So that was one interesting thing that happened. And that's actually, when you really get into the ayahuasca world, you see that's not uncommon. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Another thing on ayahuasca, and the shamans speak of this, they say that they can see your sickness. They can just look at you and see your sickness, where you need to be healed. If you have some trauma that's being like in your back or in your throat, or like they say they can see it. And I remember being like, yeah, okay, you can see it, like whatever. But then like I had ayahuasca. This is like after. So again, another really quick short story. During the pandemic, I was working for this ayahuasca center, and the pandemic happened and Peru closed. And then all the guests left, and I was living in this ayahuasca center with these shamans, drinking ayahuasca all the time. And so I was deep in the ayahuasca world, like 30 ceremonies in or something. And this experience happened where I could look around and I could see different things inside people. And I was like, wow, maybe this is what the shamans were talking about. On the 5-MeO DMT, you can see energy very easy. If you take like just a small dose, you eat like the way that like heat disrupts the road on a hot day, you can see that off people and off objects. So I think if it's possible to do it with the enhancement of these things, yeah, I think it's possible to do it naturally also. But like talking to dead people and like that kind of TV psychics, like reading the future or like finding where dead bodies are and that kind of stuff, I don't know if I believe in that. But like being able to read people, I think that's real. Like when you look at someone and you can say like you just feel their pain or like you can feel something within them. It's not like it's like you're reading their mind or something, but it's like you're connect with them on an energetic level and you can kind of feel things about them. I think that's real. And I think that's kind of what psychic is. And I think you can enhance that and really, really focus on that and turn that into something that becomes more of just like a quick intuition. What do you
That's
guys
kind of
think?
what we work off too.
Yeah.
That what you're saying, the intuition.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know how sometimes you just know something
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
without having anything like, you know, like external validating that. You're just like, I think this is what it is. And then,
Sometimes it's wrong, but sometimes it's very right.
yeah.
And like
And how do
sometimes,
you
like,
feel like if you don't listen to it when it is right?
yes, yeah, seriously, because you're like, fuck it, I knew.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. But that's what we also like focus a lot on. Energy, people's vibes, the energy in a room, the energy of a place, you
Yeah,
know, and intuition, because ultimately it is coming from within you.
absolutely. Have you ever read the Yoga Sutras or heard
No,
of them?
no.
So the Yoga Sutras is written by this guy named Patanjali. He's like a Hindu sacred text. But basically, the Yoga Sutras, this guy came, Patanjali. He was like a philosopher and scholar. He took all of the knowledge of the Vedas, of the Upanishads, all these sacred meditation yoga texts, and put them into this one compile of all of that and called it the Yoga Sutras. So the Yoga Sutras have all the information in there, like in a digestible way. And he talks, there's one chapter where he talks about psychic powers and all the different ways that they come and like how to get them. And he breaks it down, the philosophy of I forget, I don't know what they call them siddhis. Siddhi. 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 And this is a psychic power. And there's many different expressions of it. And I can Google it real quick if you're interested and just like give you like a quick little thing of what it says.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Patanjali Yoga. It says that there's 5 ways that people get them, I'm pretty sure. Let me see if I can find them quickly. So the ways that people get them is by birth. Some individuals possess inherent siddhis as a result of their past spiritual practices or evolutionary progress. Second way is through mantra repetition. Repeating specific mantras with focus, devotion, and proper technique is considered a means to awake or develop siddhis. And just a quick side off of this word mantra for me, I love this word because mantra, and so a lot of Latin can be rooted to Sanskrit. So a lot of English is rooted to Latin, blah, blah, blah. We get Sanskrit words in English. Man can translate to mind or consciousness. And tra means to deliver. So from tra, we get English words train, transport, transcend, transit, all these things that are like delivering something. So a mantra is a tool to deliver you out of the mind or to deliver the mind. Sanskrit is so cool. It's like got these concepts hidden in the words. It's like a code. Guru is another one. Gu means darkness, spiritual ignorance, darkness. And Ru means someone like that brings light. So guru, someone that brings you out of this. Sanskrit's cool. Okay.
Cool.
The fourth one, ascetic practices. These are practices that involve self-discipline, austerities, or rigorous spiritual disciplines. These are avenues to develop siddhis. Like this guy I talked about earlier that put his arm up and never put it down. 20 years, his arm is all like deformed now and can never put it down. So through practices like this, there's super austere, rigorous spiritual disciplines. Another one, concentration. deep concentration practices where the mind is trained to sustain unwavering focus on a single object or point. This is a pathway to siddhis. Or this one, which is my favorite, herbs. Certain herbs or medications are believed to have potential to induce siddhis. It's pretty interesting. This is thousands of years old that they're talking about this stuff. Hinduism is the craziest spiritual religion.
I
It's got
love it.
everything.
It's really cool. So I think that a lot of like even different spiritual practices all kind of lead to the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And it's just that's why there's so many, because it's like there's so many people with different personalities. Which one works for you?
Right.
Take it.
Exactly.
They're all real. They're all leading you to the same place.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
God has no religion, It's just there's one guru I love. His name's Neem Karoli Baba, which is the guy that Ram Dass gave acid to. He said it's better to see God in everything than to try to figure it out.
I wanted to mention something before we end.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about the community garden?
Oh, sure. Okay, so the Community Garden is a nonprofit foundation that my friends and I started, and my mom. It's been about a year old now. The main way that we have been fundraising is two ways: is through GoFundMe, which we raised like $13,000 for this little girl who's sick. Her name is Avi. And so right now she's going through all her medical stuff with the money we raised. Like she might even be in the hospital as we speak. She's like 6 years old. She has some problem, like her body doesn't like process the pee properly. So a lot of the toxins get held into her body, and now her kidney is failing and her organs are failing because of the infections. And there's something like obstructing her body from being able to process the urine properly, and like dying from it basically because of all the inflammation and all the stuff that's happening because of it. So we're like, raise this money in like 2 months, less than 2 months. We raised it in probably 3 weeks. We raised like 12 grand, and we sent them to Lima because they're from Peru in like a little town. And the reason it hasn't been fixed is because it's just mountains of Peru. Like they don't have the resources. She has to go somewhere special in Lima. So that's happening now. That's the big thing we've done so far. And the biggest thing I'm proud of is that. And I talk to her dad all the time. We keep in contact all the time. And outside of that, we did some little stuff. Like we went to the jungle and we gave art supplies to the school and did like an art class. And we did that also in the mountains along with some rain jackets, mostly all in Peru. But we're working on stuff in other places too. And the main way that we fundraise is through the retreats. We use the profits of the retreats to fund all this stuff. So when people come on retreats, you get like a crazy experience. You get to go somewhere beautiful in the world, and it's like super well organized and is real. It's a real retreat. There's a whole staff, and so it's a nice exchange. It's a very cool model. I get to travel. I'm usually with people, not always, but for most of the retreats, I'm with people. So you get to hang out with me if you care about that. You get to see these amazing places that maybe you've seen in my videos. And the money, I don't even take any of the money, I mean, outside of what it costs for me to be on the retreat, like my food and the hotels and stuff. I don't touch any of the money. It's totally donated, all to the charity, because I want to build it and make it something nice. My friends also, they donate their time and volunteer and come and work and help, structure the retreat. And yeah, we have a lot of projects going on. India, we plan to do something this summer. We're building a basketball court in the Philippines for this kind of village community, just so the kids have something to do. Lots of little projects, I'm not fully sure what it is yet, the community garden, but it's slowly kind of unfolding into, whatever it unfolds into. If you anyone that's watching want to support it, it's thecommunitygarden.org or paypal.me/thecommunitygarden. And you can donate or come to the retreats, preferably. That way you get something really cool for your donation.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
How did you come up with this idea?
Well, I was working for the ayahuasca center, and my friend who owns the center, he became a really good friend. He owns a center in Peru, 2 centers in Peru, one in the mountains, one in the jungle, and one in Mexico. And now one he's building in Costa Rica. So he's like a big retreat guy. This is a whole business is retreats. And he invited me to his house and like flew me out. I went there and sat with him, and he was like, I'm going to donate a week to helping you build a business plan. He donated this time with me. He was like a Harvard graduate, like real business guy. And he just like blessed me with this time and blessed me with the experience of being able to work for his center and meet these shamans, and gave me a lot of really great stuff. And he told me, hey, you're a travel YouTuber. You should do travel retreats. And I like didn't want to do that because it just seemed like a crazy big step. Like I don't have the organization skills to do that. And I just tried it. And the first couple were definitely like, I feel a little bad for those people compared to how we're running it now. I mean, they all had good times. They all loved it still, but like it was definitely way more hiccups than there is now. And I just had the realization like this would be a great way to like raise money for the foundation. And yeah, so just working for him, the inspiration from my friend led to that conclusion. Like, yeah, this is the good way to fundraise. And people get to see directly the communities that we're helping. Like when you go to Peru, you get to go to the village and hang out with the people that are, that were the school. You get to see it all. So it's very nice you get to connect with it. And the way that we're doing them now, they each get better and each one gets more like impactful, I think. Yeah.
Are there any other passion projects that you're working on now or that you want to work on in the future?
Yeah. So, I mean, this big trip is a dual trip. It's both for the charity and to kind of revive my YouTube channel. I feel like I've been slacking a little bit with some videos. So I'm going on a big adventure, and I'm going to just really focus on filming. I feel like since the pandemic, kind of neglected that a little bit and been a little bit lazy. So I feel like this is my big first adventure back out, even though I was just in India last year and Philippines and stuff. But my mind wasn't in the right state. So now I feel like I'm in the right state, and I'm excited to get some art projects going and documentaries and stuff like that. Yeah.
And people will find you.
YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I have a TikTok. I don't really use it, but it's all just Dakota Wint. That's my name, Dakota Wint. Yep, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much for your
Thank you guys so
time.
much. It was great. I
Yeah.
appreciate the time. I appreciate the invite to learn meditation. I'll definitely take you guys up on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you for listening to Vision Chat. You can find more about us at visionofprofoundhealing.com, where we offer readings, courses, and classes.